All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to iMax Web Solutions weekly class, and today we're going to spend about a half an hour talking about some of the reports that are available on the iMax site. And we have a live audience today, so I might get a couple of questions from the live audience. And we also have our GoToMeeting audience. And if you look right now, you'll see that I'm logged into my website and I'm on the reports page, which is where most of the reports are found, but not all the reports. Most of them are found right here on your reports page. And we are going to start off with market intelligence and preferences. This is the real meat of the reports with iMax, and I'm going to run several of these so that you can see how to run them as well as how to use them, how you might explain them to a potential seller or to tell a buyer what's going on in the market. So the first thing we're going to do is the active trends. And the active trends, well, let me back up a second. A trend compares a time frame, one time frame with another time frame. And what we have here by default is the prior period is a year back. The current period is a year back from today, the prior period is a year back from that. And I often like to make the time period smaller than that. I like 6-month time periods. So I'm going to use for a current time period back today, back 6 months. So we're going to go back to March of 10. Let's count that off. April, May, June, July, August, September. That's 6 months. So March of 11 through September of 11, and we'll use the same 6-month period last year, March of 10 through September of 10. And we're going to look at single-family houses, and we're going to look at them in all the towns that I work in. And so we'll just check all those towns off, and then we will click Run the Report. And this is going to, again, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. It's going to show us each individual town that I checked off, as well as the totals down the bottom here, the accumulated data. And this is the big overview. And what I would be telling to Mr. and Mrs. Seller is that for single-family properties in the area that we're working in, let's say I'm talking to somebody about selling their house in Beverly, we have right now the number of active properties on the market is down 6.3% overall. In Beverly, it's down 11%. That's the number of properties that were on the market in the first 6 months of this year versus the first 6 months of last year. And the median price that people are asking overall in those communities is up 13%, and the median price in Beverly is up almost 5%. Then this last column over here shows the days on market that those properties have been on the market. And these are the active trends. This is the seller's hope, people. This is not the market. All this is showing us is the inventory, how much inventory there is, and what people are asking for it. It's the seller's hope. We hope we can get 13% more for our property than we could have in the first 6 months of last year. And my thought, if I was sitting in front of a seller right now, I'd be cocking my head like a confused dog saying, gee, do they think the market's better now than it was last year? Is that why they're asking more money? Is that why they're asking 5% more in Beverly, because they think the market's better? Gee, let's take a look and see what the buyers think. So let's go back to our reports page and let's run another data point, which is the sales trends. Skip over the under agreements right now. Let's go right to the sales trends, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And I will often do these right in front of people on my computer. And this is one of the reasons why I love to bring people here into the office when I first meet them, because I can drag out all this good gear. And now you'll notice we're running another report and everything's already filled out for us. The time frame is there, the towns are all there, everything's already filled out for us. So we don't have to worry or we don't have to bother with setting the dates again. So let's just click Run the Report and look at the sales trends. Now, overall, sales, the number of properties that have sold in those communities are down 14%, and in Beverly they're down almost 4%. The prices that people were willing to pay in Beverly are down 3%, and overall down 1% in those communities. Now, I would be saying to Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so the sellers had hope, they were optimistic, but the buyer is the one that sets the market. The buyer is the one that determines the price at which the property will be sold, not the seller. The seller makes a suggestion. The buyer gets in line, goes to the bank, brings the money and says, well, I won't pay your suggestion, but in a declining market or in a flat market like we're in, and it's really pretty obvious here, we're in a flat market, and we're in good shape here on the North Shore. However, we're in a flat market, and the buyer says, I'm not going to give you your suggested price, but I'll give you X. In an accelerating market like we were in 3, 4, 5 years ago, buyers were paying more sometimes than the seller wanted. They were going over ask. Now they're going under ask. Just a different market, that's all it is. So I hope that's clear. That's the sales, the active trends and the sales trends, and kind of how to use them. Now let's take a look at the under agreement trends. The under agreement is the pipeline. It's not a data point because all we know is what the seller asked. Well, all we know is what they hoped for. We don't know what they actually got. We know from our experience that people pay 4, 5%, they pay 94, 95, 96% of asking price when it finally sells. So we know that when we look at these under agreement trends that they didn't get these prices. The seller didn't get these prices. So the number of properties that are under agreement, there are 12% less, 7% less in Beverly, and the prices at which they went under agreement, different from last year to this year, they're very flat in Beverly, and overall it's only down 2% for all of the area. Now you look at some of these pockets here, Rockport, Rowley, Wenham, those are all up. They are up. Hamilton's crashing, and if you're from this neck of the woods, Hamilton's finally getting their due, kind of. Nobody wants to live in Hamilton. All the housing stock is older, and a lot of the buyers out there right now don't have kids. They don't care about the school system, so Hamilton is getting hammered. Ipswich is getting hammered too, individually. 16% is down off the ask. That means that the ask price for the under agreements is down by 16%. So these are real important numbers to show your potential seller clients as well as your buyer clients, because you will with your buyers you'll boost your credibility immensely when you go over these reports with them. It will show that you really know the market. You know what's happening out there in the market. So these are, again, the active, under agreement, and sales trends. And I present these reports in the order in which I just did to you. I present them active, sold, and under agreement. That's how I present them. So I hope that is clear. Now, we're also going to look here at the inventory trends, and those will get you an idea of what's happened to the inventory in the same 6-month period. So if we click Run the Report, all the trend reports work the same way. And you can look and see what's happened in the 184 days, what's gone on with the inventory, how many listings there were in each town, et cetera, et cetera. Days on market, it's just really good. Okay. So let's move on to the next report. Let's move on to the next report. Absorption rates. Now, I want to show you, I only use one of these absorption rates. They have them by price, and we have it here by month as well. Month is the one you want to use unless you have a specific situation, and then you can take a look at by price as well. But the months, I like absorption rates by month. And absorption rates are not a trend. It's for one community. You can do it for a bunch of different communities, but it won't break down the different communities. So we're just going to do it for Beverly. We're going to make believe that we have a listing here in Beverly. And all you have to do is check off the town you want. It's going to compare active to solds, and you run the report. That's all you have to do. And obviously, if you're doing condos, you would change the property type from single family to condos. And absorption rates, there's a tremendous amount of information on this report here. Basically, what an absorption rate shows is the number of properties that are on the market at a given time, and then the number of properties that were sold, and the percentage that's derived from the solds divided into the number on the market is the absorption rate. So, August of 2010, 19 units sold. There were 199 units on the market for sale. Notice up here, for sale, 199. That means the absorption rate was 9.5%. It means that 9.5 out of 100 properties that were on the market sold in that time period. That's what's going on for an absorption rate. Overall, in the 12-month period, we had almost a 13% absorption rate last year. This year, we have a 12% absorption rate so far. Check out the numbers. Last August, it was 9.5. This August, 13.8. Last July, 9.6. July before, 13.2. June of 10 was 20%. June of 11 was 20%. Now, that makes me jump up and down because May and June last year, 15 and 18% respectively here, we had that 8,000 buyer credit still going on. So there were a lot of sales. June and July this year, 20% and 9%. We're still doing well, June and July this year. So I'm excited and happy that the market is still happening. So that's what the absorption rate is showing us. Now, it's also showing us the median prices here that were sold. The median price overall this year, this is the price point that is selling in Beverly. 378 is the number in Beverly. That's the middle price. The same number of sales were above that price as were below that price in Beverly last year. And the year before, it was 374. So the median price hasn't changed that much. It's only changed by, $4,000 or $5,000. So that's where it's selling. Lower than that is going to sell a little bit more. Higher than that is going to sell a little bit slower. That's how you read an absorption rate. I hope that's clear. And by the way, right in the reports section of your website, if you scroll down and look over here, there's a link that says Understanding Market Reports. If you click on that link, there is some nice verbiage there for you that talks about each report. Absorption rate is the rate of sale per month stated as a percentage. Now that's what I just told you. For example, if it's 8%, that means that 8 out of 100 properties for sale sold that month. So you can go to the help section of your site and click on Understanding Market Reports and get a nice, concise spiel to use for each report. Okay? So that's the absorption rates by month. We're not going to bother with price. Property sales mix is a report that you might want to run just to see if you want to be looking at other types of property to sell in the area for your own business planning. If you wanted to see in Beverly what types of property are selling, let's click Run the Report. And you'll see that 80% of the volume over the last year was single family, 12% was condo, 1.2 was commercial, 0.2 is land, and 6% was multifamily. So if you're thinking of going into the land business in Beverly, you're not gonna, there was one piece of land sold in the last year. You're not gonna go very far selling land in Beverly. But if you want to look at, if you want to stick with condos and single families, that's great. If you want to specialize in condos, whatever, you can. That's the property sales mix. Okay. The next report I want to go over: actives, under agreements, and sales by price band. I use these reports. I'm going to run one of them. I'm going to run the sales by price band, and we're going to check, again, Beverly only, because this is not a trend. And we're going to look at the sales in the last year, because when I'm explaining these reports to my client or my potential client, I want them to know about where their house is going to fall in the price band and how many houses sell. Let's say I've got a house in Beverly and I think it's worth about $4.25. Let's go take a look at the 400 to 450 price band that has sold in Beverly. There were 19 sales over the course of the last year, which was about 8% of the market. If I've got a property that's up in the millions, there were only 3 sales, which was 1%. Where do I really want to be? I really want to sell houses in Beverly between 250 and 300 because that's 20% of the market. The market is all clumped up in Beverly right here. Look at this. 13, 19, 17, 13. That's 26, 45, 55. 63% of the market in Beverly is between 200 and 400. 63% of the market is right there in Beverly. Now, if we want to see another report, is the months of inventory. I love this report. This is the one. This is pretty much the last one that I show people when I'm explaining the market to them and sitting in front of them at a listing appointment. Let's take a look and see what's going on in each price band, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Your house is going to be about I think it's worth about 4.25 as it sits right now. So let's look between 400 and 450. Let's see, there's 11 properties on the market right now. There were 19 sold in the last year. That means there's 1.6 sales per month. There's 7 months worth of inventory on the market right now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. 7 months worth of inventory in your price range. Do you have 7 months to sell your property? I just shut up because I'm waiting for them to catch their breath and look at each other and answer me and tell me whether or not they have 7 months. And I want to hear this answer. And if they tell me they have 7 months to sell their property, I might want to run the other way and not take this listing. Because what I really want to hear is, oh no, we want to be out of here in 2 months, 60 days. Well then, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we are going to need to do everything possible to make sure that your property is the next one that sells. We might even want to consider marketing it at $399.90, just so that it's just a hair below that 400 mark, so that we can sneak in underneath and offer more value for the property than other people that are on the market. We also want to have it staged. We want to have it photographed. We want to have QR codes. We want to do everything possible to market your property so that it's the next one to go, so that you don't have to wait 7 months. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Ask them a question, tie it down, shut up, and wait for the answer. That's the months of inventory by price band. That's my favorite. If I had to live on a desert island with one seller and one report, it would be the months of inventory by price band. Okay, gets me all excited talking about that report. Reports. Then we've got market share, agent productivity, agent sales activity. If you want to see how much an agent's doing that you're going up against, those are all really easy to run. This one here, Market Trends Interactive Charts. This one, you got to see this. And this is, it looks a little complicated to use, but if you just use this one. Use the active median asking price, the under agreement median active, and the median sales price. Click those off. Check it off quarterly for single families, and then run the report. And I'm going to run this for you now for Beverly. And this is a report actually that you want a lot of data for. So I'm going to check off all these towns to run all these towns on this report. And then we'll just run it for Beverly. But what this does, and I love to have people in my office, this is one of the first reports that I show them because this is interactive, it's live on your computer, and we can scroll over it and it will bring up different data points on here. But we'll be able to see what's going on in the market. Actually, you know what? I want to go back and I want to change the date. Let's say my seller bought their house, because this goes all the way back to 04, and it comes up through July to September of 11. Now, we haven't finished the September quarter, so I'm going to go back to June. Let's say the sellers of my property bought their house in 06. All right, let's say they bought it in the spring of 06. So they bought it in April of 06. So we're going to go back to 06, and I'm going to show them on these charts what has happened to the market since 06 in these communities. Run the report. And it takes a couple minutes because it's crunching a lot of data here, but it's worth the wait. And by the way, I'm recording this class so that you can come back and watch it again and again and again. Stop it and start it. And you'll be able to get as proficient with this as you possibly can. Because I'll tell you, the one with the most reports, the one and that can explain the most reports is the one that wins. That's just the way it is out there. People are data hogs. They want to see it. Okay, the median asking price, this is active asking price per quarter. Look at what's going on in the market. This is where you bought it. This is the asking price. And notice what, as I scroll over these data points, it brings up where it actually is. So the highest asking price was in the second quarter of 06, and gee whiz, that's when you bought, isn't it? And now we're over here. We were down in here in the dumper in the first quarter of 10. We had the buyer credit. Look what happened to the market. It came up to here, and we've been holding on right there. Let's take a look at let's jump right over into the solds, because again, we explained the actives, then the solds, then the pipeline, which is the under agreements. So let's take a look at the median sale price. It's still loading it for all these towns, because this will give us a really good graphic of what's going on in the market. All right, while that's cooking, we'll take a look at the under agreements. Now, the under agreements hasn't shown as much optimism as the actives, has it? And remember what we said about the actives? This is hope, people. This is not a sale. This is hope. That's all it is. And the sellers are hoping that they're going to, the median price is going to be $499.9. And what's actually going on is it's $449. That's the data point. That's where people are. That's where stuff is selling. Is it's lower than what the hope is. And here's what the actual sales are. We're at 362 in the second quarter of 2011. The median sale price was $362,000. Now that's not an average. It's not skewed by one $4 million sale. It's a median. That means if there were 40 sales, we pick the middle, and there's 20 above and 19 below. It's the middle sale. So that's the interactive charts, and there are several interactive charts that one can choose and use. The one that I just showed you there, the median ask, under agreement, and sales price are the ones that I like to use. And I also like to do it by quarter, not by month. And I love to go back to the quarter when they bought their property, because it can show them right from there what's happened. Okay, let's move on to, I think we're going to leave the intelligence and preferences, and we're going to spend a couple of minutes. We're going to be another 5 minutes here or so on a couple of other reports that I really, really dig. One of which is my member activity report. Now, I get an email every day from my member activity report, and it tells me what my members are doing and looking at. And these are the members that showed up on my website yesterday and what they looked at. Half of these people have already signed contracts with me, and this is what they looked at. Now, my email comes in the morning, and it shows me, let's see if my email came in today and if I pitched it already. Here's my member activity report. Here's what my email looks like every day. This is Andrea looked at that, Fred White looked at that, Jack Shields looked at that, and right from here I can click and go to his profile, and then I can see if he's looked at anything else in the last couple of days. It's a great email to start the day off with your cup of tea. That's the member activity report. And that's found on the reports page, and you can set it up by going to the preferences right here, and you can determine what you want it to show you and when you want it to send you stuff. Now, I also want to show you the report that goes with your property. Each particular any listing that you have or any property that you want to look up and see who's looked at it from an iMax site. You can look by putting an MLS number in here and then clicking Run the Report. I don't know any MLS numbers off the top of my head, so I'm just going to go find one of my listings right now. And the way we'll do that is we'll just click Property Search, and it happens to be under agreement, the one we're going to look at. And it's in Ipswich, and the number on the house is number 96, so it's easy to find it. and then we'll go down here and we'll click search. Now, there's two ways that you can run the property activity report. Let me tell you first off why this report is important. I would use this report, one, to show a potential listing customer, a potential client, how well I can track who's seeing their property. I would use that. And two, if I was looking for a price reduction on this property, I would use it as that as well. All right. So let me get the listing number off of this. Let me just click copy that. Okay, if we click, we found the listing we want to look up right here. See the activity link? If we click the activity link, it's going to bring up all the activity that we've had on this house, on all the IMAX sites in the area. This is just the IMAX sites, all right? Now, this has been on the market for 56 days, and if we scroll down, we can see, now Maxine Watson is a member on my site that looked at this house. These are all visitors, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that looked at this property. Now, I don't advertise in the newspaper anymore, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. It's all online because I can track who saw it, when they saw it, how many people saw it. I can't do that with a Boston Globe ad. 139 people saw this property on my website, 346 total. Those are kind of amazing numbers. Now, if I show you the Realtor.com numbers, those are even more amazing. You know, I guarantee this house has been seen over 1,000 times. So if it hasn't sold, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's probably only one reason for it, and that's the price. That's probably the reason why it hasn't sold yet. And when I'm showing this to a potential listing client, it's just a really great way for me to be able to prove that I track things on my website. So that's one way to get the property activity report, and that's by clicking that little button that I showed you underneath here. It says activity. The other way is to just go to reports, and if you know the listing number, just click on who's looked at MLS PIN number and click paste in the number there and then click run report, and it will bring up the same report there. So there's two ways that you can get that. And you can do this with any listing that's out there. It doesn't have to be your listing. It can be somebody else's if you're curious to see how long, you know, how it's been looked at. Have any people on your website looked at it? And I don't want anybody glazing over. We've been at this for 30 minutes now. I promised you I'd be 30 minutes. So I am going to say thank you for joining me. And don't forget that this will be on YouTube/Kenny McCarthy. And you can watch it anytime you like. Have a great day.